The reason why 99% of men are simply unable to quit pornography is because they rely too heavily on willpower alone. The willpower that they have perhaps allows them to go a couple of days without porn, but eventually that willpower fades away and they end up relapsing. But instead of actually sitting down and altering their strategy, they once again repeat the same cycle. They promise themselves that this time they're going to do better, that this time somehow things are going to be different, and this time they're going to fight the urges harder. But in the end, the story repeats itself and they once again end up relapsing. For a lot of you who are watching this, you might have had this addiction with you for decades now, and you might have relapsed hundreds, if not thousands of times. The brutal truth is that you are going to continue to do so unless and until you change your strategy. You need to stop relying too heavily on willpower and start approaching this problem a bit more strategically, kind of like how a scientist would. In this video, I'm going to share with you 2 fundamental protocols that you need to start applying to your life almost immediately. And once you have really implemented these into your life, you are going to have a much easier time overcoming porn addiction. So let's get right into it. I want you to go back in your memory lane and think of the last few times that you have relapsed. And for each of those occasions, I want you to ask yourself 2 questions. The first question being, what caused me to relapse this time? This question is extremely important because a relapse doesn't just happen randomly. There's always a reason for it. So maybe after thinking hard, you can come up with the reason why you have relapsed for the past 10, 20 times. The second question I would like you to ask yourself for each of those relapses is that, how can I prevent myself from relapsing again? Answering this question is extremely important because if you do not figure a way to overcome the root cause of your relapse, then you're going to forever relapse over and over again due to the same reasons, and you're just perpetually going to be stuck in a cycle of relapses. So pretty much each relapse has to make you modify your behavior or your mindset in some shape or form if you don't want to relapse in the future. So these reasons of why you have failed and the solution to avoid these failures again, together they're going to make your code of conduct. You are going to realize that the more you really think about your past relapses, or the more you relapse in the future, the bigger and bigger the code of conduct will actually get. Because you will get to know more things about yourself. Finally, you will reach a stage where your code of conduct is pretty much complete. And at this stage, you are going to observe that the frequency of your lapses has decreased significantly, or that you are not relapsing at all, because now you have taken into account every mistake you have ever made and figured out how to not make it again. One of the challenges that you might face when designing your code of conduct is figuring out what the root cause of your relapse was. Because you could technically just write that I felt uncontrollable sexual urges and therefore I relapsed. And that's how my last 20 relapses happened. So this doesn't really give you much information, and you can't really modify your behavior in the future to prevent this sort of relapse from happening. So before you create your personal code of conduct, I want you to understand this principle of failure before the fail. And I'll give you an analogy for it. And I'll explain this to you with the help of an analogy. Imagine that there was this student. He had this final exam coming up. It was really important to him. On the day of the exam, he showed up and performed absolutely terrible at it. So after the exam, he thinks about what just happened and feels horrible. And what he identifies as the cause of failure was that in the moment when he was answering the questions on the exam, he did not do well. That is just the superficial cause of failure. But the truth is, the real cause of failure happened much, much before he even sat down to write that exam. It happened months ago when he did not study, when he was out partying with his friends instead of attending lectures. The real cause of failure was the fact that he did not prepare well for the exam. So when you are designing your personal code of conduct, don't just write down, I got uncontrollable sexual urges and that is what the cause of failure was. No, in most cases, that is not the real reason. I want you to identify what mistakes you made that led you to having these uncontrollable sexual urges. Some of the most common reasons why this happens is because maybe you have a terrible sleep schedule, and when you wake up sleep deprived, your sexual urges are uncontrollable. Or maybe you have a really poor diet, and as soon as you eat that sugar-filled chocolate cake, your sexual urges become uncontrollable. Or maybe you have this tendency to doom scroll, and each time you do so, you come across provocatively dressed girls and you end up with uncontrollable sexual urges. So now that you've understood the real cause of your relapses, now you can actually modify your behavior and avoid it from happening again. You can optimize your sleep time, you can optimize your diet next time, and you can delete all social media apps from your phone. This way you have permanently overcome the thing that was holding you back. However, in some cases, the real root cause of your failure could very well be the fact that you just have uncontrollable sexual urges, no matter how good your sleep or how good your diet or how productive you are that day. The solution to that problem is a combination of intermittent fasting and a ketogenic diet. I have covered this topic in a number of my previous videos. Make sure to check them out. Hey, my name is Jibreal Khan, and I've helped dozens of men overcome porn addiction using tried and tested systems based on neuroscience and behavioral psychology. The best part is that these systems do not rely on willpower, which is a fleeting resource and it is bound to fade away in the long run. Some of the people that I've worked with have been addicted to pornography for as long as 20 years and could barely go a week without porn. So if you would like to work one-on-one with me to overcome porn addiction, then make sure that you click on the link in the description and book a call with me. This call can be completely anonymous if you prefer. You have something what I call a mental canvas. Everything that you hear, you see, and you feel gets imprinted on top of this mental canvas. And your mind remembers the things that are on its mental canvas and makes you constantly think about them. So it is absolutely important that you monitor what enters your eyes, what you hear, and what you feel when you're trying to overcome a porn addiction. If you're like a person who's trying to overcome a porn addiction, but you have this habit of checking out Instagram models, then guess what you're doing? You are imprinting those images on your mental canvas. This is actually going to make your brain think more and more about lust and might very well trigger a relapse. If you're watching movies which have a lot of sexual scenes in them, once again, you are making it harder on yourself to overcome porn because your mental canvas is being painted by sexual imagery. So what I would personally recommend is that you go hardcore monk mode. Nothing sexual enters your mental canvas, no pictures of Instagram models, no steamy scenes from movies, no provocatively dressed video game characters. Hell, you might even need to guard your gaze when interacting with people in real life who are provocatively dressed, because the human brain was designed to receive dopamine from things that it finds sexually arousing. It does not distinguish between digital images or real life individuals. We live in the 21st century where hypersexualized content is being used to capture attention and sell products and services. There's a reason why most movies have highly attractive people who are fit, and there are a bunch of sexual scenes. Most music videos, video games, comic books have the same presence of hypersexualized characters in them. Guarding your mental canvas could mean avoiding things that are considered mainstream and even appropriate by people.